So, if I was to give you a check to solve this problem fundamentally, not bandages, fundamentally fix it, how much do you need and how much time do you need?
Sure.
Are you going to solve South Africa's youth unemployment issue?
So essentially, if I wasn't in corporate, I don't think any of my businesses would survive.
You know what triggers influence certain types of people, and therefore you can lean into those.
It helps me understand different personality types and how to manage them, but not to manipulate people, of course.
Hi everybody, welcome back to today's awesome session, chill session. I've got Simangele with me today, and we're going to be discussing the amazing journey she's been on with her business and the backstory. I think that's where the nuggets are. People think entrepreneurship is easy. I'm sure you've got lots of stories to tell as to how somewhat interesting that has been. And then obviously we want to find out more about your business, where you're at, how's it doing. And it's just a chill chat. So welcome, Simangele.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
No, it's an actual honor to have you. I mean, obviously, I know you and been tracking your progress. It's been an awesome journey. But maybe for our audience, you can just tell the guys basically where it all started, and I'm mostly interested about your youth. You know, did you know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I started selling sweets at primary school.
No way.
I've always been an entrepreneur of sorts.
And where does that come from?
My family, at home, we've always sold something.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother also used to sell here. I think in, not Brie, what's that? Park Station.
No
She
way.
used to sell vegetables and so forth.
So that bug bit very early.
Very, very, very early, because I had to help manage the business at home. When people were coming to buy, I was the one counting the money. And then sometimes I'd even help to stock up. So obviously, I mean, being exposed to that just made it easy for me to want to go into business.
Do you think that was nurture versus nature? Well, you think you were born an entrepreneur, or because you were surrounded by very strong women entrepreneurs, that became just a natural thing for you?
I think both. The environment was obviously enabling.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've always been curious about learning, doing stuff, exploring, and that's just always been a part of who I am as a person. So I think both.
Okay, cool. And I mean, you didn't automatically after school go into that. I mean, what did you study? How did that part of the journey happen?
I studied psychology. But funny enough, throughout my journey, I've always had a business. Even at campus, I had a hair salon in Yana. I was doing people's hair at campus. You know, I was always making money. If I saw an opportunity, I'd take it. So as much as I studied psychology...
Why then did you study psychology if your natural inclination was more business?
It was only cause that they could accept me for. At that time, I didn't qualify for anything, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my life.
But it wasn't like parental pressure. Oh, you gotta be a doctor.
My father wanted me to be a pharmacist, and then unfortunately, I didn't qualify. And I was very happy. I wanted to do marketing though, but they didn't want me to go like far away. Back then, I think it was what do you call it now? TUT.
Yes.
But it was called something else
back
then.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew I wanted to be like those people on Generations, you know, in the advertising space and so forth. But my parents were not comfortable with me leaving Limpopo and then coming and studying marketing. And then when I went to University of the North, the only course I qualified for was a social science degree. And I just thought, okay, let me just do a mixed bag of...
And did you do it and finish it? And did you go through the entire journey?
Well, honest level, yeah, I did.
Wow. So technically you're a shrink.
No, I'm not. You require a master's level and then some year of working in certain spaces before you qualify. But I was still debating if I should still do my master's, but maybe in research or something like that.
And do you think like things like understanding human behavior, like psychology, allows you to, has been an asset in being an entrepreneur?
Definitely, it has. I'm also a coach with different modalities as well, so that has helped me as well in terms of engaging people, relationships, growing others, mentoring others as well. So that part of me, I think, has enabled me to be the entrepreneur that I am. I'm not the typical, forceful,
Yes.
but I do understand human behavior, and that allows me then to get into people's hearts and win them
So is it
over.
more nurturing or more, what triggers influence certain types of people, and therefore you can lean into those?
It helps me understand different personality types and how to manage them, but not to manipulate people, of course. Because you can
Wink, wink.
move into that area
Yeah.
quite easily if you're not careful. But it's really understanding people's personality types. This one is like this. Okay, if you engage in them, this is how you would unlock them. This one is like this. And that has taught me to understand that with the different personalities, you can't have a blanket approach to managing, to engaging, and so forth. And it's made me more, I guess, understanding of human nature, and sometimes not so harsh to judge or so harsh to want to, react based on how people are acting or engaging. But then it's more nurturing as well. So I do a lot of mentorship for youth. I do a lot of coaching for youth.
Sounds like you enjoy that part.
I do. I used to do it like full time, get paid for it.
Yeah.
The corporate space for a lot of big corporate names. However, I enjoy more of the entrepreneurship side, the tech side, the engaging of solutions and so forth to solve different problems in our communities.
So now it's more of a passion more than it is a job part.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like you fundamentally enjoy it.
Yeah. When I want to get out of my usual space, then it's the space I go to. And then once or twice a year, then there's a program that I'd run for free at no cost, depending. And then I'll choose a community or I'll choose an area or a school. Then I'd go and just offer my time when it comes to coaching young people. Yeah.
And so you do your varsity, you finish your psychology, you even go as far as master's level. I mean, that's
Honors
a lot.
level, yeah.
Sorry, at honors level. So that took a lot of commitment and time, right?
Yeah.
After all of that, what happens? Because clearly you didn't go and practice, I'm assuming. What happened after varsity?
I actually worked and I couldn't get a job because, having a social science degree back then, there were not so many opportunities. And then I thought, okay, let me try sales. And then I applied for a job in sales. And then they said, why should we hire you? You don't even have the relevant skills and qualifications. I'm like, I understand people. Because I've studied people, it's easy for me to engage and connect with people. So that's how I got my first sales job. And I went into sales and marketing, and then grew into the tech space for a while, and then ended up working for big corporates like Dimension Data, Microsoft, MTN. And then along the way, something was missing, and I felt like there's a hole that's so big and it's growing, and something is offish. I literally took a year off work to try and figure out what's going on with me. And then I realized that I'm happier when I'm giving back and I'm working with people. I'm innovative and I like coming up with new ideas, and maybe I should spend more time doing that. So that's how then I ventured more into the entrepreneurship space. I've always had a business though, even when I was working though.
Even in corporate?
Yeah. I actually had a hair salon at the campus in Bryanston.
Yeah.
I've always had a business.
At the DD there.
Yeah, I always had a business.
Because you're at Microsoft, right?
Yes.
Were we at the same time?
Just before you left, and then I joined afterwards, and I took over your accounts. And it was not easy working your customers. Yeah, they were always nagging. You're not like Miles.
Say that again, louder. I love it.
Dude, when I see him, I'm going to tell him off. But yeah, I've always had a business though. It didn't matter where I was working, I had a business.
And I often refer to Microsoft as an amazing journey. Learned a ton there. What was your experience, or maybe not just Microsoft, in corporate generally, and were any of those skills transferable to your entrepreneurial journey?
Sure. I think if I wasn't in corporate, I wouldn't be structured and having some of the adventures that I'm having now. Corporate taught me a lot about governance. It taught me a lot about structure. It taught me a lot about processes, hierarchy, and so forth. And I believe that I wouldn't be able to set up my businesses the way that I have if I was not in corporate and I wasn't exposed to those environments. And then tech-wise as well, I mean, in my environment, I believe in using the latest, the best.
Yeah.
We don't use pirated stuff. We pay because I've got that culture of, with
Doing
there's
things
value,
right.
you pay. So essentially, if I wasn't in corporate, I don't think any of my businesses would survive because I wouldn't know how to set up processes. I wouldn't know how to have the right teams or build the right teams. And I wouldn't know how to then obviously go for the right customers that would obviously find value in what we provide. So
In fact, one of my main regrets was that I left and I ran away actually because for a while they were asking me to run my own team and all of that. And I didn't want that. I liked being entrepreneurial within a corporate, and it allowed me to be flexible and I could package my own pipeline and all of that, and I could defend it because it was just me. Whereas when it's a team, you are aggregating and you are responsible for other people's stuff,
dynamics,
right?
Yeah.
And so I ran away, and in hindsight, now that I run teams, I realize I might have missed out on a massive skill set that I could have learned under someone else's check, essentially. Did you pick up any managerial or leadership type skill sets whilst you were there in any of the corporates?
I did. Actually, Didi, I grew quite quickly and I was given an opportunity to run my own satellite office. That was not easy.
Wow.
And then I think like you, I ran away because the people dynamics was so hard and I had older people, Afrikaans people reporting to me. And sometimes it felt very foreign having to reprimand, having to guide, having to, make sure that the team is at its best. And I wish I had applied myself more there because I would have grown even much more better into business because I would have applied myself more. But however, I've gotten the opportunity outside of corporate then to run and manage teams. Yeah.
And I think most people underestimate that, right? That corporates are actually great for learning. It's another university. And most people just want to start their business. I think we are richer for having had the corporate experience, especially a multinational one, because it allows you to think globally, right? Taking that, do you think everybody should be an entrepreneur, or some people should actually, or maybe you should put it this way, some people are more geared to be employed? In other words, not everybody should be an entrepreneur, I don't think.
I agree totally with you. I started realizing it along the way because I remember when I started, I was like, a salary is like a trap where employers want to steal you from your dreams and blah, blah, blah. And now that I'm an employer, it's different. Yeah. But also, entrepreneurs have a certain type of persona, they have a certain type of energy and so forth. And it's not for everybody. It's hard. It's not always glamorous. It's not always
In fact, it's anything but glamorous most of the time.
Very, you get your hands dirty, very demanding, taxing and so forth. It's just not for everyone. Now I'm an advocate of saying, understand who you are and place yourself accordingly. Some people make great employees and there's nothing wrong with that. But also working can be quite rewarding, getting a good salary, getting a good base. Man, how I wish. I miss, my salary and all the packages. I used to take it for granted and not understand the value that it brought to my life. And sometimes with entrepreneurship, you don't get paid. You pay your employees first. And sometimes it can go months on months without you literally earning anything because you're trying to keep the ship afloat, and you know that if I take a certain amount for myself, it means certain things are not going to
get done.
Yeah, so I think people should really understand that working is not bad. It's actually a good thing. And you can still be an entrepreneur in the organization and be innovative and be part of teams that actually change or bring products that would add value to consumers. And also respect the fact that when somebody's an entrepreneur, you must understand that they've really, really worked hard to be where they're at.
And they're going through the most.
Exactly,
most people don't realize that it's firstly lonely. Your peers don't understand you because they're working for corporate. They've got 4 holidays a year and all of that, right? A standard paycheck. Your spouse doesn't get it because... they're trying to be supportive, but, guy, you've been saying this thing is going to come together.
And
but
it's not coming together.
And every time you get home, you're miserable. Oh, so-and-so hasn't paid you, what. So you're always complaining. And then your staff are like, hey, bruh, it's month end. So there's no one else to really, I suppose, download and tell them your journey, but be sure that they actually care. They're not just listening for the sake of listening.
Of listening.
Yeah.
No, true. I'm lucky that I work with my partner, so we are lonely together. So
But that's got probably its own. Well, firstly, tell me how that works. But I'm sure that also has its other dynamics, right? So, what are the pros and what are the cons?
the pros is that you work 24/7. So even when there are issues at work, you're able to sort it out together and so forth.
So it's not lonely.
It's not lonely, and then I always have someone that I work the journey with. If there's challenges, we vent to each other. We're there for each other. In my world, the con is that we don't rest. We always consistently on the run. We wake up, it's like already we're just, what's the next thing, and so forth. But I appreciate working with my partner because I saw him struggling in business, and then I was struggling too with partners and so forth. And I was like, why don't we
Bring this
come and
together.
work together? Because I've tried working with other people, it didn't work. You've tried it, and maybe the next best thing is to try with each other and see how that goes.
Well, I mean, if the other ones didn't work, weren't you scared that now you're bringing in a dynamic into your relationships? I mean, relationships are hard in themselves.
Hard enough, yeah. At first I was scared, but I saw that we've got the similar values. We care about the same things. And when it comes to how we run and manage stuff, we've got similar ideals. So that has helped like a lot. Because he believes a lot in structure, in doing things the right way, not compromising. Even when we're delivering a product, he would make sure that everything is done correctly. So because of that, I think that's what brings us together. We do have our fights. I mean, sometimes they can be very explosive. But however, I respect him in terms of what he brings to the table. And he respects me too as well because I bring a different dynamic. He's an engineer. I'm more on the people side. I'm more on the innovative side, and then when
So
we bring
you lean into
together,
his weaknesses and vice versa.
yes, and so forth. So when I know there's a project or something core that needs to be done, I know that it's going to be done really well when it comes to him. When I need to speak to customers, he knows, okay, she's got it, so I don't have to worry. So that's where I think it works because of that. Yeah.
But also this 24/7 grafting thing, is it not a con in itself in that, when are you just partners? Wait, let me put it this way. You are partners at work, but when are you not partners at work?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you're just you and him,
What I've realized, there's no true balance. So that's the one thing I've surrendered to. So when there's
no work-life balance.
No, there isn't. But when there's a time for us to do stuff and there's an opportunity, we take it and we relax.
So can you switch off?
Yes, I can. We spend time with family. We do other things that we like, or he does whatever he likes. I do whatever I like. But I realize that when the opportunity presents itself to work, we work because entrepreneurship is about opportunities.
Yeah, and they come whenever, right?
Yes, and then when there's that element of evenness and quietness, that's where we take an opportunity to do other things outside of work. So
well,
yeah,
I think that brings us nicely into the world of work, your baby, what you've been busy with, and very impactful business. Maybe in a similar format as to how you told us your journey, your personal journey. Maybe you can, bring the audience into your confidence in terms of how it all started. I'm mostly interested in a backstory. What was the wrong, or is the wrong that you are trying to right?
So essentially, we want to give equal access to employment opportunities. I'm from Limpopo, so I run other ventures. So we are in education, engineering, and so forth. And on the education side, we decided to set up a center in our location where I come from in Seshego. And then when we were there, we'd get a lot of young people traveling from outskirt villages, asking us to use laptops, to use our internet, because when they would get to the internet shops, you'd find they're not working. And then I saw this is a serious problem. And then on top of that, you see people sitting in corners and so forth. When you start engaging, I said, there's no job. This job seeking stuff also, it's also hard. You end up giving up because you don't have money for transport. You're not always visible to opportunities. And then we thought as partners, how do we solve this problem? Because this is serious. And we were seeing it every day because now I was going to Seshego like almost every second week. And then we thought, let's come up with a solution that will allow us to enable job seekers to send their CV from anywhere without traveling. and then where possible they don't have to use internet. So that's how we started. So Moses had a prototype that he had built already for SMS.
Moses, your partner?
My partner, yes, that allowed him to get parents to communicate in schools and so forth with that system. And we thought, how about we modify this?
It's like the D6 app that's how schools communicate with parents.
Well, it was more like an SMS of sorts that allowed a bit of back and forth. And then when we built, we thought we shouldn't build an app because now we are perpetuating that whole thing again, that job seekers have to download an app, they have to have a smartphone. We need to build something that will try and alleviate all of those pressures. So that's how Ejoobi was built. So our first prototype was an SMS prototype. It enabled the job seeker to go onto the internet once, upload their CV on our system. Once they're done, that's it. And then going forward, if they see job opportunities, they would dial our short code and be able to tell our system to send their CV wherever they wanted it to go. So we started that via SMS and USSD. But as we were working and we thought, okay, now they're sending, how do we bring the opportunities
to them?
And then fast forward, we have become an HR technology company with obviously our own AI recruitment platform that connects employers and job seekers. We have a couple of government opportunities currently. We provide e-recruitment systems. So we're a full-on technology company, but that does services mainly in the HR space. But the platform itself has over 12,000 job seekers currently.
Wow.
And we've got over 48 employers using our platform and literally engaging with our job seekers.
You said 12,000?
Yes.
Sheesh.
That's small compared to what other job portals or platforms, have.
But if I'm one of 12,000, that matters to me, right? That means I'm an employed one of 12,000 on just one portal, right?
Yes, no, definitely.
And in terms of getting, I suppose, the companies that are seeking people, maybe before that question, I suppose the one that becomes paramount is, what is the success rate look like? Are you winning? Out of the 12,000, statistically, how many are likely to get employed through this process?
So where we are able to track, I think we've placed over 200 job seekers in our own might. But we're working on the system to be able to track further in terms of
because that's
all
the other
other
thing.
employees,
Yes.
the employers, that are on our system and using our system. But we do try and measure. I mean, we've touched over 6,000 job seekers across the country with our skill set of enabling them to be able to build great CVs. We've also built a CV bot that allows job seekers to just chat to someone like me, because I built that program for job seeking coaching. So when they then get to have a CV, it's a more detailed CV that tells a bit of a story about them. So those are the type of things that we measure and we get involved in, because by virtue of being also part of different incubators and foundations, we have to make sure that when it comes to the ESG side, we are measuring. But yeah, there's been a good rate of young people getting opportunities. We're just trying to work better at measuring our employers and checking who they're placing via our system.
Because that was the question I wanted to ask, is that because you've got partner employers, so the ones whom you are bringing forward to the person who's looking for the job, but you also have the person who's looking for the job sending to employers that you might have no visibility to. And therefore you don't know once they get hired, right? Which is fundamentally what your portal started as doing. So currently there's no mechanism of checking if the opportunities convert into being hired.
So we are able, from an employer side, if we've got a good relationship with them, to check on the system and see what they're doing. But we're trying to do something better in terms of us having an administration portal that could actually track certain aspects. Because if we're not close to the employer or working closely with them, then you don't really get to see what they're doing on the system, because some of the insights, the dashboarding is unique to the employer. But we're wanting to build something that could enable us from an administration perspective to be able to see overall how many people are being placed. But the employer themselves, they have dashboards that enable them to see from the base that they've used, how many people they are placing, how many offers they've given. So we've got insights on our system. We're just working on that next layer to see overall then what's happening there when it comes to placements.
So, and where are these guys looking for the work? What do we call them? Recruits, I guess?
Or recruits, as
Yes.
in a lot of them. In terms of our base, when we started with internships,
Mm-hmm.
we started with learnerships, we started with youth, grade 12 level up until graduate level. But now we're also getting employers that are bringing senior type of roles, middle management roles, even executive roles. We've done executive roles as well via our system. So it's a mixed bag, but I think about 40% of our database is youth. Yeah,
And are they in
people below
rural?
the age of 35.
Are they in rural townships? Are you still focusing, for example, like you said, in Limpopo? You know how you know someone is from Limpopo? They'll tell you. You're like, you Limpopians don't mess around. They're like, yo, yeah, and you love back home. Like
Yeah, definitely.
you can just like start the car and be like, I'm going home.
Yeah,
And it's like 4.5 hours at least. So,
Yeah.
are you still finding that a lot of the guys are from, I suppose, township or rural communities?
It's now a mixed bag. Before it used to be more on the outskirt areas, but we've got people across 9 provinces. I mean, we were checking one of our stats for some of our jobs in Mpumalanga, and I think we had over 2,000, 3,000 people apply for specific jobs. So our base is across different regions, and it's growing. And then we also have a following in Zambia as well, in Kenya, and then we're finding also we're getting employers from Europe as well now. So it's quite interesting to see the database and how different people are starting to engage and access our
And
our
what kind of
platform.
jobs are the recruits looking for typically?
Anything from we get a lot of people wanting administration type of internships, but you get people in the IT space. We've had people in the pharmaceutical space. We've had people in the retail banking spaces as well, insurance as well. So these are the ranges of jobs that we've been finding that people are seeking for. But a lot of the bulk of what we've placed in is in the administration space and the IT space. We've found that we've gotten a lot more opportunities in those spaces, but even HR as well. But I think bulk of what we place or where recruits are applying for is administration jobs and IT jobs.
Super cool. And from I suppose, a socio-economic point of view, like we obviously have a fundamental problem in South Africa. There's a lot of people unemployed. Now, you've chosen this lane to make a dent and fix a wrong, right? Are we winning? And what are the underlying issues that make this problem exist? Because me as a systems engineer, I always try and figure out, like, are we putting band-aids on, like, on a gaping wound, but without addressing the underlying causes of the wound? So, firstly, what are the underlying causes from your perspective? And B, are we winning? And if not, what should we do?
That one is it's really tough. Hey, it requires more companies to come in and play at that space. We are winning, however, a lot of our young people lack skills. And a lot of our young people just don't know what they want. I mean, half of the time we get emails, people just saying, I just want a job. And they're never really clear about what is it they are looking for. And then 3, when we do place them, we're finding a lot of young people are struggling in the workspace. And then we've found that if you don't coach them or support them in the first 3 months, they tend to leave. They drop off. So these are some of the things that we are facing. And employers are facing because there are opportunities available. However, to a certain degree, they require a certain attitude, they require a certain skill level, they require a certain personality in terms of not giving up, especially for the younger ones. The other issue is we find that young people want to be on multiple programs at the same time.
Yeah.
Someone will be on one internship and then they enroll on another. And that just causes a lot of challenges. And we're finding employers exhausted and tired and wanting to give up on giving young people opportunities because it's really hard to have a space where you're creating opportunities for young people, especially in that era. On the professional space, not so many issues, but I think it's more on that layer of young people and then people living with disabilities as well. That's the trend that we're seeing. A lot of them, because they are so minimal, are so happy to just move around, jump around, and then have 5 opportunities at the same time. And if you don't measure that, then it causes employers, a lot of stress. And then they end up just not wanting to host or have internships for youth and young people. So these are some of the things that we experience a lot of the times, and employers are always, feeling the strain. And at times they want to give the opportunities, but sometimes they just feel like it's too much work, too much stress. It's getting to a point where it's not worth it.
So if I was to give you a check to solve this problem fundamentally, not bandages, fundamentally fix it. You can choose the time frame you think you'll be able to fix it in, but I want it sorted. In other words, I want almost I'll take single digit youth unemployment rate. At worst, I'll take that. At best, I'll take 0, but I'll take single digits. How much do you need and how much time do you need?
Sure. I would need about 25 million rand.
So for 25 million rands, are you going to solve South Africa's youth unemployment issue?
The thing is, it's not to say there's no opportunities. It's the skill sets. It's the workplace readiness that's a challenge. And with 25 million, we can reach a lot of young people to get them ready in order to be able to be absorbed into opportunities. A lot of the times, our young people are expected to know certain things, to manage themselves a certain way. And unfortunately, if they're not exposed or mentored or coached properly, they end up not being able to sustain. There are, yes, we do have jobs that are out there that are not matching the ratio of our job seekers. But when it comes to a level of our youth and our graduate layer, there is a sizable market, but they need to be coached in order to access opportunities.
25 million, and how long will it take?
Depending, if you're saying single digit, looking at youth, we've got a 60% unemployment rate when it comes to youth. I would need a good 5 years if we were to reach as many young people across our regions, and I'm sure we can reach a sizable number. Already with what we do, we help a lot of young people. We get emails every day. Sometimes we don't place them, we just help them with the coaching. They go fetch the opportunities themselves, and every day we get a positive email, a positive WhatsApp, a positive message to say, hey, because of this, now I work here, because we enable them in order to fetch for the opportunities, not to just sit, also expect opportunities to come to them as well. And we do that all at no cost, for free.
I read an interesting stat that if someone doesn't have someone working at home, or there's no newspaper, for example, it will take them, I think, I might be bastardizing this, but it's something like it takes you 4 generations for someone to work themselves out of poverty, right? Because if there's no newspaper at home, you're unlikely to see a job. This is fundamentally what you were trying to solve for with the SMS thing.
There's no internet in most of our homes.
So how if no access to information, is unlikely that, and so if you don't have someone who's working, that's also a lack of information, right? Because you don't seeing the trades, you don't seeing, so tells me that's an ecosystem. It's a societal ecosystem thing. It's not just necessarily one thing. The other thing I found interesting, so I work on a program called Suitably Dressed. We work with H&M, where we discovered that a lot of young people, when they go to job interviews, they don't have the right clothes to to go, and that in itself is a game changer. Or even when they get the job, they don't have enough clothes for the first couple of months to look the part, and it kills their self-esteem. Meaning that this problem is multifaceted. And as you know, when you work in impact, you start off trying to go solve the one thing, and you quickly realize that there's so many ancillary stuff that are the underlying cause that present in the problem that you were fundamentally trying to solve.
The other one is we find that when our young people get opportunities, they can support up to 7 members of their households, and it puts a lot of emotional strain on them to keep on working.
Because all of a sudden, everybody, now you're a breadwinner.
Yes, and everybody depends on you to provide something, and that on its own also causes them to want to give up. And
Too much stress.
it's just
So you're
too
working
much.
and you're not even seeing their money.
You're not seeing the money. On top of that, you have hundreds of people calling you and expecting you to provide and take care of things. So these are some of the challenges that we realize are facing our young people. And if we don't coach them properly, they end up just giving up because all of it is just too much. And it's easier to just sit at home and not work.
So kids become parents to their parents.
Parents, to their parents, communities, siblings, neighbors at times, depending.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do we solve for that? Another 25 million, another 5 years?
No, that's something else. I think also societally we need to look at how we culture ourselves, because some people end up just, not doing anything because sisi wa bereka mos, she'll provide, or uncle wa bereka mos, she'll provide. I mean, you get people having uncles, aunts, and so forth. But it's like that one person makes it. Now that whole dynamic looks at that one person that's working. So I think in terms of family setups as well, and how we culture ourselves when it comes to work and the opportunities we go for, because sometimes you give people opportunities that are like, nah, I won't work for that. But someone is sitting at home and you're thinking, you have nothing, there's something, it moves you from somewhere, and people are not willing to take certain opportunities because of how we just cultured. Like, no, those are jobs for outsiders. These are not jobs for me, or these are not the type of jobs that I should be considering. I always tell people, like, waitressing is one of the most basic, simplest way to earn an income. But if you talk to the average South African, they're not interested in such jobs.
Well, you're actually speaking in my lane. And to me, whether you're a scholar or a waiter or whatever, it's not the job. That's a baseline. That's a stepping stone. It's a skill set. It's the culture that you wake up every day, go somewhere, right? And even if it just covers your transport, but it keeps your mind sharp.
Yes.
That is more valuable long term than sitting at home and saying, this job is I don't earn enough, right? It just keep, and you don't know. So many people I've hired just because they were smiling as my waiter, they remembered my order all the time when I'm there. You don't know who's looking at you.
Exactly.
So, and you don't know where the opportunity is going to arrive, right? So if you just keep doing it with the best intention, like, your opportunity will come. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you give up before you've started, well, uzothola kanjani uhlezi ekhoneni kind of thing, right?
And that's the thing. You find out someone who works with us, and then that's what they're going through at home. They're like, another job of yours, that's not even a centime job. That's not even and you know what it does then to the person? It just demotivates them. And essentially you find that then if the environment is not feeding you, you just become the same thing as your environment.
Yes.
And I think that's the basic issue. The government can't provide jobs for everybody. We have to then figure out as a society how we're going to build our own economies and thrive from them in our own unique way. I mean, you've traveled, you've seen other countries, and how,
and everybody
the rest
crafts
of the regions, people work. They
3
wake
jobs
up, yes.
and crappy jobs, but they'll do 3 of them
exactly.
And I think maybe that's one of the things that I would have, if I had the magic wand, I would be running like a gap year thing for all these young people who get out of school and send them into other countries to give them a reality check to see, like, you're not alone, firstly. It's not unique to you. Like, everywhere in the world, people are crafting, right? So, and I think maybe that's something we need to work hard on in exposing people. But you and I can talk forever on these problem statements, partly because we're very passionate about them. As we wind down, I want to know where in the next 5 years or 10 do you think your business is going to be? And, then, because I'll be tracking this KPI. Right? I'll be knocking and seeing if you're meeting these targets. So in closing, what would you say you would like your business? What's the vision in 5 years?
Yeah, and funny enough, I used to think this vision is far away, but we want to be a global company. We want to be able to provide services globally, and I think we're already a step closer to that. We want to be able to set up headquarters in countries like Dubai and so forth. I used to feel like that's like very far-fetched, but I can see in the next 3 or 4 years we'll find ourselves at that level, and we want to be a unicorn.
Wow.
As much as we've never gotten an investment, we've actually funded everything ourselves, and we've managed to keep it going and grow it. I can see that definitely in the next 5 years, there is a potential to be a unicorn. And probably this might be the first self-funded unicorn that might not necessarily have an investor.
So more like a rhino then, a real two-horn strategy.
Like more like a rhino. You're right. With 2 horns. So that's the vision. That's where we wish to go. At first, it felt like you're dreaming, man. This is not possible.
Yeah.
But over the last year, with the things that have been happening and the opportunities we've been getting, I think it's possible. And I cannot wait for us to launch our product on Microsoft Marketplace. I cannot wait for us to launch on AWS and all these other platforms, especially on the platform side. And I cannot wait for us to get real deals, opportunities that will move our company into the next level when it comes to
super
technology.
Excited. I can't wait to use it for ourselves as we grow our business.
Yes, please.
And with that, Simangele, I'd like to say onwards and upwards, my dear. I'm super stoked. I'll be watching. And like you said, it's probably closer than it seems. And and thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for your time.
No, thank you so much for having me on the Big Dreamer Show.
And with that, guys, thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe and do all of that cool stuff people say you must do at the end of a podcast. But also, most importantly, we'll be putting Simangele and her details as well as the company details. Please feel free to follow her and most importantly, use her service. I mean, that's why we do what we do. Once again, Simangele, thank you so much. Thanks, guys.